The ocean did not retreat like a tide, it withdrew with purpose, as if something vast and ancient had stirred beneath it and demanded space to breathe. What had once been a restless, living surface became a silent void stretching for miles, exposing a seabed untouched by light or time. Dr. Anaya Blake stood at the edge of that impossible horizon, her mind rejecting what her eyes could not deny. This was not nature misbehaving, this was something deeper, something intentional. Around her, Malik Serrano tried to ground the moment in science, Jun Park struggled to stabilize failing data streams, and Celeste Hart watched the Earth itself as if it might move again at any second. The air carried a weight that pressed against their lungs, thick with the sense that they were no longer observing the world, but intruding on something that had been hidden for a reason. Every step onto the exposed seabed felt like trespassing across a boundary that should never have been crossed. The ground beneath them was wrong, too precise, too ordered, stretching in patterns that defied natural formation. It was not just the silence that unsettled them, but the absence of randomness, the absence of decay. This place had not been shaped by erosion or time, it had been arranged. Malik's instruments flickered with contradictions, refusing to categorize what lay beneath their feet, while Jun's satellite feeds fractured into fragments of distorted imagery, as if the world itself could not process what was being revealed. Celeste felt it first, the faint, repeating tremor beneath the surface, not chaotic like an earthquake, but measured, controlled. And as Anaya knelt to study the ground, she understood the truth settling in her chest. They were not standing on the ocean floor. They were standing on something constructed, something buried, and something very much awake. The first movement shattered any illusion of safety. It was subtle at first, a shift beneath their boots, a quiet realignment that could almost be mistaken for settling ground. But then it happened again, stronger, undeniable. The seabed moved, not like earth, not like rock, but like a mechanism adjusting itself after a long period of dormancy. A ridge rotated with impossible precision, shedding layers of sediment to reveal a surface that caught the light in sharp, metallic reflections. Panic flickered across Malik's face as logic began to fail him, while Jun's voice trembled with the realization that their presence might be triggering the phenomenon. Celeste stepped back as the ground opened in a deliberate motion, forming a passage that descended into darkness. And in that moment, Anaya felt the shift, not in the ground, but in understanding. This was no discovery. This was an awakening. The signal rose from beneath them like a pulse through bone, invisible yet undeniable, threading through their equipment and their bodies alike. It wasn't sound, not in any human sense, but it carried rhythm, structure, intent. Jun isolated the pattern, his hand shaking as he mapped its repetition, each sequence too precise to be random, too reactive to be natural. It changed when they moved. It shifted when they activated their instruments. It responded. Malik tried to rationalize it, to reduce it to feedback interference, but the evidence mounted against him with every passing second. The structure below wasn't just active, it was aware. And as the pulses grew sharper, more focused, Anaya realized something far more unsettling than any anomaly. Whatever lay beneath them had noticed their presence, and it was answering. What revealed itself beneath the surface was not ruin, not relic, but architecture, layered, interconnected, and alive with motion. Vast plains shifted in synchronized patterns, channels opening and closing as if directing unseen currents through a hidden system. The material itself defied comprehension, neither fully organic nor entirely mechanical, existing somewhere between categories that human understanding had never bridged. Celeste watched in stunned silence as pathways redirected sediment with effortless precision, as though the structure was maintaining itself even after centuries beneath crushing ocean depths. Malik's skepticism collapsed into quiet dread as energy readings spiked, tracing flows that converged toward a single, distant point deep below. And Anaya, standing at the threshold of that impossible design, understood the scale of what they had uncovered. This was not something buried by time. This was something that had been waiting. The choice to descend was not made out of courage, but inevitability. To turn back now would mean abandoning the greatest discovery in human history, and perhaps the only chance to understand it before it changed again. Yet every instinct warned them that they were crossing a line that could not be uncrossed. As they stepped into the opening, the structure responded instantly, walls forming around them with seamless precision, sealing the passage behind them as if ensuring there would be no retreat. The air grew heavier, charged with a subtle vibration that resonated through their bodies. Jun's equipment flickered uncontrollably, Malik fell into uneasy silence, and Celeste's steady composure began to fracture. Anaya led them forward, though even she could feel it now, that growing certainty that they were no longer exploring. They were being guided. At the heart of the structure, they found not emptiness, but purpose. The central core pulsed with a slow, deliberate rhythm, radiating energy that seemed to bend the very space around it. It was not a machine as they understood it, nor was it alive in any familiar sense, but it existed with intent, with function, with awareness that stretched far beyond their comprehension. The moment they entered, the rhythm changed. Faster. Sharper. Aligned with their presence. Jun's final transmission dissolved into static as the chamber began to shift, walls moving with sudden urgency. Malik's voice broke as realization struck, this was not a passive system. It was completing something. Above them, far beyond sight, the ocean trembled, its absence no longer sustainable. And as the structure awakened fully, responding to the variables they had unknowingly introduced, one truth became impossible to ignore: they had not discovered it, they had activated it.